From isometric screenshots to the old Pufferfish texture, here are 48 Minecraft changes. In the first few versions of Minecraft, you could turn rain on and off without using commands. Pressing F5 would magically start raining. Since these were versions that mainly tested new features, this option was quickly removed. Did you know that if you attacked a wolf in creative mode in older versions, the wolves would still try to kill you, even though they couldn't harm you anyway? Bone meal is a pretty powerful item, allowing you to accelerate the growth of any crops. But originally, it was even more OP. Instead of giving you a random chance to increase crop growth, a single bone meal could grow a new crop instantly. Currently, you can easily place 2 vines in a corner, but before the aquatic update, placing 2 vines in a corner was simply impossible. Did you know that coal and charcoal looked identical? When charcoal was added to the game, there was no difference between it and normal coal. So I guess the texture change was appreciated by the community. In early versions of the game, arrows were impossible to craft. Instead, the player spawned with 20 arrows, which they could shoot by simply pressing the tab button. Interestingly, the first arrow recipe only required an apple. The original Endermite model looked like a purple silverfish. In my opinion, it was downright ugly. Luckily for us, Endermites quickly got their own unique model, which we still know today. Veteran players will remember that it used to be impossible to place 2 chests next to each other. If you wanted to place a chest next to a double chest, the game wouldn't let you. That's why most players built their chest rooms this way, leaving a 1-block gap between chests. And while you could use trap chest, it was a bit expensive. When you cast a fishing rod in older versions of the game, instead of seeing the fishing rod texture, you would see the stick texture. It looked as if your fishing rod magically disappeared and reappeared, which didn't make much sense. This is the original pufferfish texture. That stupid-looking yellow fish looks weird and hardly looks like a pufferfish at all. Then when the texture was changed, it certainly looked much better. But a few updates later, the pufferfish got its best texture yet. Carrots and golden carrots have similar textures, but when they were first added, they looked completely different. Regular carrots looked like one large bundle, while golden carrots were a single thin one. But of course, in the official 1.4.2 update, carrots and golden carrots received almost identical textures, which were slightly updated in version 1.14. When axes were first added to the game, they looked a bit different. They didn't look like tree-cutting axes, but rather battle axes. This was due to the fact that they had blades on both sides of the head, and it was changed after just a few days to the design we know today. Minecraft spawn eggs used to look almost identical. It was hard to tell some of them apart, but in the spring drop in 2025, each spawn egg received its own unique design, inspired by a specific mob. Filling a bucket with ocean water is pretty harmless, but there was a time when a regular bucket could completely ruin an area, because where the water was collected, an ugly flowing water animation would remain. There was a time when swords could actually destroy blocks in creative mode. Before version 1.6.1, any sword could destroy all blocks in creative mode, but this was later changed, and now swords are the only tool that doesn't destroy blocks in creative mode. The original Vex looked way different. His initial model looked a bit like the player, and some said it didn't fit the game, so the developers decided to change his model in a style more similar to Alay's. Nowadays, every player knows what the end portal looks like, but when it was first added, it looked completely different. It had a strange-looking blue holy texture that could be found in Stronghold, and while these strongholds looked quite normal, their locations were marked by 2 tall glass pillars. The Minecraft logo has changed quite a few times, from one literally made of cobblestone to a pixelated well-known design to its current high-resolution smooth design. The same goes for the Mojang logo itself. Originally, they started with that weird orange logo, for a long time only changing the color and font of the logo, but with the Nether update, everything changed. That's when the Mojang logo became a small animation. Remember those days when fireworks didn't speed up the Elytra's flight? When the Elytra was added to the game in the combat update, the ability to speed it up with fireworks simply didn't exist. This was later changed in Snapshot 16W50A. Since then, players have been able to fly practically endlessly. Drown's original texture was a mix of a zombie and a skeleton with a strange shade of magenta. Honestly, he looked more like some kind of nether mob than an ocean one, so it's no surprise that the change was for the better. The current colors simply fit the ocean vibe better. Nowadays, you can easily place blocks like glass panes, iron bars, or fences in water. But before the aquatic update, placing these blocks in water removed the water, which honestly looked very weird. Currently, there are dozens of different biomes in Minecraft, so it's easy to forget that it all started with this one simple biome, where the landscape was covered in a distinctive bright green color. Minecraft mobs used to look the same, but recently we finally have different types of chickens, wolves, cows, and pigs, with textures depending on the biome. It even got to the point where chickens from cold and warm biomes got unique eggs, but they're the same. These beautiful screenshots were taken without any mods, just using a fantastic old Minecraft feature. We're talking about isometric screenshot. Before Minecraft worlds were infinite, you could press F7 on your keyboard to get these amazing images. Everyone knows what a Minecraft witch looks like, but originally she looked more like a villager in a witch costume because her skin color was almost identical to a villager's. The old golden apple texture was iconic, but like many other textures in the texture update, the golden apple changed, and I admit, despite the nostalgia, I prefer the newer design. When shields were added to the game, they did not look very well placed in the item frame because they were not centered, which personally annoyed me a lot. Fortunately, Mojang fixed this a few versions later. Originally, skeletons had a completely unique arrow texture compared to normal ones. Instead of the familiar arrows, they shot these weird purple ones. Currently, every villager in the game has their own zombie variant, but the original zombie villager looked just like a regular zombie. The only difference was their head. I think the developers were just lazy. Remember how terrible boats used to be? Not only were they incredibly slow, but they were also very fragile. Even a slight hit against a block would cause the boat to crash. Do you remember that time when the player spawned in a special starting house? Originally, the house was made of mossy cobblestone, and it contained 3 chests with illegal items. But a few versions later, the mossy cobblestone was replaced with wooden planks. Ultimately, the structure was removed even before the official alpha release. Do you remember that you could get a beacon in end ships? During the 1.9 update snapshots, end ships generated with a beacon on them, but a week later, it was replaced with pumpkins. Then another week later, the pumpkins were replaced with a book titled Work in Progress. And finally, 2 months later, the elytra hanging in the item frame replaced the book. Did you know that the Minecraft sun and moon used to be round? In one beta version, the sun and moon changed their shapes from square to more rounded. When you wanted to change your render distance, all you needed was one button. By clicking it, you could change your render distance from far to normal, short, and tiny. But in version 1.7.2, this feature was replaced with a slider, which is much more accurate. When clouds were added to the game, they had a very simple texture. They were just plain, completely white shapes, without any details. Later, in the InfDev version, they had a strange-looking 3D texture. Then for a long time, we could observe the clouds that every player knows well, but everything changed in Snapshot 25W21A, where the clouds were completely changed, and now they sometimes even show the creeper's face. Bows in Minecraft are pretty good, but they're nothing compared to the old ones. Not only were they infinite, but they didn't require drawing. This made the bow work like a machine gun. Everyone knows exactly what the Totem of Undying looks like, but it didn't always look this good. Originally, it looked like a tiny, green-eyed dude with 2 short arms, so I guess it's a change for the better. If you ever played Minecraft before the Village and Pillage update, you should remember what villages used to look like, especially gravel paths, but eventually all villages were refreshed. Currently, the sound of taking damage sounds like this. But it used to sound like this. For a long time, the invisibility potion didn't fully work on sheep. Their bodies would disappear, but their wool would still remain visible. I'm not entirely sure if it was a bug, but luckily it was later fixed. Flowing water can easily push entities, but strangely, flowing lava couldn't do that before. Previously, when a player stood in flowing lava, they simply stood still, but that changed in the Nether update, and it remains in the game to this day. Did you know that the Minecraft sun rose in the north and set in the south? While in the real world, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It seems Notch didn't think much about realism when adding a day-night cycle. This was fixed when the community noticed this unrealistic oversight. Did you know that the fortune enchantment didn't work on gold and iron ore because mining these blocks only dropped the block itself? This changed in the Caves and Cliffs update. Now, after mining these ores, we get the raw material, allowing fortune enchantment to finally work. I'm sure everyone knows what this thing is called. It's called sugarcane, but originally it was called reeds. As every player knows, hugging a cactus will take damage, but the realism ends when you try to pick it up, unless we're talking about old Minecraft. Back then, taking damage from a cactus after hitting it was an actual feature. When creative mode was first added, it wasn't perfect. A key oversight was the lack of neutrality between mobs and the player. And even though you were immortal, it didn't change the fact that creepers still wanted to blow you up. Creating path blocks using a shovel is quite a pleasant task, but it used to be much more annoying. Originally, path blocks could only be created on grass blocks. This meant that if there was a dirt block in the middle of the path, you somehow had to swap it with a grass block. Flint and steel and TNT were added at almost the same time, but you couldn't fire TNT with flint and steel. You just had to hit the TNT to ignite them, so it was rather difficult to pick them up, but you could always try.